Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 31 of What If Kaguya Was Naruto's Mother. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends on your social media platform. And also, stay in tune because after this I'm going to be posting a new episode of What If Naruto Was Sent to the Marvel World. So stay in tune for that and I hope you guys enjoy. And over on Anime King 2, I'm going to be posting What If Naruto Was a God Amongst Man. So stay in tune for that as well. And What If Orochimaru Was Naruto's father. So stay in tune for that as well guys. And remember, if you're new and it's the first time hearing my voice and you enjoy the videos on Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you all for your help and support. And remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying and talking back to all of you. So without further ado, let's begin this new episode. Start the intro.
I think the girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their
So, the last spot we left off, Naruto had to forcefully capture Konan as he used swift release on her to make her body move slow, as her mind couldn't transfer the information to her body fast enough. As he told her that he's her father, as he pulled out the last remaining portrait of their family. Before Naruto could say anything else, he was blasted away by full force as Tendo Pain came there, as Naruto was sent skyrocketing as he fly straight into the monument. As Pain looked over at Konan, as he told her to go that he will handle this. His job was to take out the elemental sage, as Zetsu had told him where he was, and he has a Rinnegan. The elemental sage cannot be that powerful. The monument then exploded, as what emerged was not Naruto Namikaze anymore, it was Naruto Osusuke, as his white hair and his horns were showing with his bright white eyes, as Nagato just destroyed the last portrait that Naruto has of his family, and for that Naruto is gonna make him pay. As Konan went off after his swift release was gone when Naruto was blasted away, as she went to the real Pain's body, as Nagato couldn't believe it. The last thing he saw was his face being grabbed, as Tendo Pain was grabbed and thrust down to the ground with so many force. His body collided with the ground, a boom. As Naruto created lightning in the sky, lightning that blocked out the sun. People could say it was a second sun. As the lightning struck down, disintegrating every part of Tendo's body. As Nagato couldn't believe what he was dealing with, he quickly switched Tendo power with the human path, so there was no other path that could suck out Naruto life. Seeing that he has to go near to him to do that, he found that pretty useless. As the other Pains arrived and attacked Naruto, as Naruto went into a rage. Naruto quickly showed them that he's a god amongst all of these men, as they're nothing to him. As Naruto sent out a mist to find the chakra controlling these paths, as he quickly realized they were nothing but puppets. As Naruto smashed each and every one of them, Naruto was still enraged as the stone ninjas, the sand ninjas, and the sound ninjas. Naruto pulled them all into a ball as all of them were crushed together as he thrust it into the ground, a boom. As he went off to finish the job. As Naruto arrived at the tree, the whole tree exploded, leaving Nagato and Konan as they were in the open. As Konan tried to stop Naruto, but he frees her body from the foot up to her neck, stopping her, as he then went towards Nagato. As Konan quickly used a tree and break it apart, as she flattened it and turned the paper, as she drive him towards Naruto to stop him from killing her master. She couldn't let him do that. She couldn't. But Naruto turned around and stopped her paper, as this made her realize even more he was her father. He has the ability to control paper as well, and even better than her, as he took the control away from her. It was then that Nagato pulled his arm from the contraption as he thrust it forward to remove Naruto's soul from his body. So yeah guys, that was basically the last part we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So let's begin this new episode. Konan stood there as she watched her father's soul about to be ripped away. But to all of their surprise, Naruto's hand blurred around and grabbed Nagato's hand, stopping him in the process. As Naruto then used one of the papers and removed Nagato's hand as it dropped to the ground that thud. For the first time in a long while, she heard her leader cry out in pain as his hand dropped to the ground. Blood sprayed from the wound, and that seemed to take up more of pain attention. Not the fact that he was missing a hand, but the fact that he could bleed. As a smack then smacked him across the face, forcing him to look up into Naruto's eyes. As Konan then saw a green light as she closed her eyes, thinking that this was it. But she still sensed Nagato as she opened her eyes, as the hand had healed into a stump, and Nagato was still alive. "Those eyes aren't yours," Naruto said. "There was evidence that your body, nervous system, and your chakra pathways were previously severed from your eyes. Who do they belong to?" Naruto asked. "They are mine," Pain said in gritted teeth. Despite the wound was healed, he still had to get over the severe pain of losing an arm like that. "Then let me show you more proof," said Naruto, as he thrust his arm forward. As Konan realized what her father was about to do, as Pain realized at the last second, as Naruto ripped his eyes out of his eye socket. The scream that came from Nagato could have been heard in Konoha from how loud it was. Then he went for the second eye, as Nagato screamed out in pain again. In a desperate attempt to escape from the ice that hold her, Konan tried to get control of the hovering paper. For a moment, they wiggled in mid-air as she felt a small amount of attempt to free herself, as she thought she could regain control, but then they stood still again. Her father didn't even turn around to face her. To know the knowledge that she was trying to break free, she couldn't regain control of the papers. How superior was he to her, she wondered, as Nagato was breathing heavily with blood leaking through his closed eyelids. As Naruto then squeezed his palm with a scrunch, as Konan mouth opened in shock. Her father just destroyed the strongest bloodline in all of the elemental nation. Pain too realized what her father has done. Despite his sight not being there, he could hear it. He knew what he did. What have you done? Do you know what you have done?" Nagato screamed. "What was needed," Naruto said, shaking off his bloody hand to get the remnants of the Rinnegan off of it. Then he thrust his arm forward again towards Pain's face, as Konan froze again, thinking that this was it. As his hand touched Nagato's forehead, as Nagato flinched at the contact, as a green light lit up his hand once more, as it then covered Nagato's face, but it ran straight into his eyes socket. As he then pulled back his hand, as Pain blinked, as Konan was surprised as she saw purple eyes. They weren't the Rinnegan, just normal purple eyes. "I can see," said Nagato. "What did you do?" he said, looking at Naruto. "Giving you proof," said Naruto, as he held up his hand, as he created a crystal mirror. "This is what your real eyes look like," said Naruto. "Had you truly owned a pair of Rinnegan, I wouldn't be able to restore your sight. The Rinnegan are gods of eyes, and they couldn't be healed or restored by mortal means." Shock and rage spread across Nagato's face, as his purple, normal eyes looking back as a shock then vanished, and it was replaced with pure rage. "Undo it! Give me back what is mine," he said. Konan was getting worried. Nagato's Rinnegan was what pushed him this far to where they were now. It was the only reason why the rain was free of Hanzo, the reason why Akatsuki could be considered a global threat and not be held in the same regards as some mercenaries in the world. As Konan could only further hope that the plan that they were doing did not further require the Rinnegan. She didn't know how her friend would react if the plan would have to stop because he lost his Rinnegan. But Naruto didn't take his tone very nice as he grabbed Nagato's throat, as Nagato started to choke as Konan still tried to break free from the ice. As Nagato's arm tried to move away the hand from his throat, but nothing he did was working. "You seem to not realize the position you're in," said Naruto. "You are nothing to me. The only reason why you still live is because you have information I want. I try to be nice, kind even, despite all you have done to me, but you still want to die. I have run out of patience. I am now taking what I want." As his free hand gained cloak in a purple-looking aura, it touched Pain's forehead as the man's eyes went wide, and he then froze. "Mind release," Naruto whispered. Both remained still for several moments, during which Konan tried to escape her bonds, but she realized she was still stuck, and then her father came back. As she watched her father drop Pain, half of his body's lower half was completely useless, as he was dressed in a brown shorts. Seeing that Naruto grabbed him and lift him up by his throat, he was pulled out of that metal machine. As he dropped on his side in a thud, he was lucky that Naruto didn't drop him on his back, so the metal rods would just tear right through his chest. She then saw something her father show weakness, as he staggered back as he was holding his head. The ice then melted as the paper that were floating fell to the floor. As Konan was only stunned for a moment, as she then wanted to check over on Nagato, but chakra exploded from her father's body, as she could see rage and anger leaking off of the man, as the rags hanging off of him danced in the air in a non-existent breeze, as so many aura were leaking from him. As Naruto grabbed Nagato and lifted him up in the air, unlike last time, Pain instantly started to turn purple as Naruto was crushing his windpipe. "You ignorant child," Naruto said. "You have no idea what your actions have brought to this world. You think that world peace is so easy to obtain, that one person alone can achieve it with one of your stupid techniques." As Pain was gasping for air, as Konan couldn't move as the amount of pressure leaking from her father had dropped on her shoulder, it was like tons and tons, as she couldn't move a muscle. As she noticed the tree under his feet was breaking from the sheer force he was releasing. "I should kill you," Naruto said. "I should pop your head like a grape and be done with it. But I won't. That is too quick, too easy for you." As there was a few seconds of silence, as Naruto seemed to be deciding on a punishment. "See your plans unfold. See exactly what you fight for, what years of planning turn into." His eyes glowed purple again, and this time so did Nagato's, as Nagato's hand fell to his side. As Naruto tossed Nagato, as Nagato landed on his stomach, his eyes blank. The pressure then released, as Konan took in a deep breath and released, as she pushed herself from off the ground. As she looked up to see, she was looking into green eyes. Her father stood in front of her, with long black hair and green eyes. He didn't have the horns anymore, as Konan had seen this before, and it was kindness directed at her. "What did you do?" As she looked over to her leader. "Is he still alive?" Instead of answering, Naruto pulled her into a hug, as she tried to resist at first, but this warm sensation, as she just rested her head on her father's shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Konan," he told her softly. "I'm so sorry I was never there for you. I am sorry for all the trials and tribulation that you were able to undertake at that age, when I should have been there for you. I am so sorry that I failed you," he said, "and I will spend the rest of my life trying to correct that. I don't expect, with the little time we have spent together, for you to care about me. Neither do I expect you to. But I hope, however you feel about me, that you will give your brother a chance to come back in your life." That's right, Konan thought to herself. She had a sibling, a sister-in-law as well, and a nephew. "Regardless how you feel about me, know that I will always love you, just as your mom does," he said, as he then kissed her on the forehead. "Never forget that," he said, as she then found herself drowning in memories from the past. Things from her childhood and before, things that she had no idea were stored in her mind. As she felt arms picked her up, it was her mother when she was a baby, as her mother tickled her nose with hers. Then that faded, as she was now tired, as she saw both mother and father over her crib looking down at her, as the both of them had a small, soft, warm smile on their face that brought her pure joy and happiness as a baby. Another, she was giggling as fast and running as fast as she could on two chubby legs as her mother was giggling and chasing after her. And beside her was a blond boy as he was running with her as well, as he then picked her up as the both of them fall over. As she was going to cry, but he started to laugh as he then kissed her on the forehead as well. "I love you, sister," he said. "Are you okay?" As Konan then started to cry and hug her brother as her mother and father came over there and picked the both of them up and hugged them as all of the memories went in her head. As she then spoke, "I love you too." Judging by the way his grip tightened on her, he heard what she said. As Naruto bathed in the feeling of holding his daughter, the knowledge that she still loved him, it was his daughter that pulled away. As Naruto knew that he had to stop and prevent them from combining the tail beast chakra to bring back the Jubi. That was their goal after all. That stupid man. Despite not having the Biju itself, all they would need to do is combine a large amount of chakra and mix it from all the tail beasts. The Jubi wouldn't return at full power, but much like the other Bijus, it would start to generate chakra and gain its power quickly. From there, the being that his brother had sealed away would break free. However, despite that, Naruto wasn't in any hurry to deal with the rest of the members of the Akatsuki. From what he saw in Nagato's mind, none of them had any real idea of the final goal besides that Zetsu character, whose appearance ring a bell in somewhere in Naruto's mind as he don't know where he has seen that black thing before. But none of them was a threat right now. To control the husk of the Jubi, one needed a Rinnegan, and what he saw in Nagato's memory, he was the only one that possessed them, and he just destroyed it. But still, he didn't know how this small sample of the Biju's chakra would react, being so close to the Jubi's husk. He would leave soon enough to deal with it, but for now, he would spend some time with his daughter. "What did you do to Nagato?" Konan questioned, focusing once more on her last of her friend. "Is he still alive?" As Naruto sighed, wondering how such a person would have kept the loyalty of his daughter. The quick sweep of his memories gave Naruto a good idea of what he has been doing. He was supposed to be the leader of this Akatsuki, but he was flawed in many ways. He was too arrogant. He think that by everything he could just crush it just because he has the Rinnegan. "He's alive," Naruto said, as Konan released a small sigh of relief. "But he will not be awakened for some time now. His mind is currently seeing a future of your plans being brought to life." "What would have happened if we had succeeded?" asked Konan. While she knew that their father was against their goal, she knew that she was aiming for peace. Thousands will die, and thousands more will die again, trying to stop what you have released. If you had succeeded, you would have brought the end of all chakra-bearing life in the elemental nations. "I have also removed all of his knowledge about the use of chakra," Naruto said. Konan's jaw opened slightly at that, before closing, as she turned to her friend. As Naruto knew she was thinking about how this will affect Nagato. All the knowledge, little tips and tricks he picked up thanks to the Rinnegan was now gone. There was then silence between the two, as Konan then turned back to her father. As Naruto knew what was coming, he knew exactly what was coming. "I suppose you want to know how our family got separated despite my power," he said. He knew after his conversation with Minato that his fears has overwritten his common sense. "I remember flashes," Konan said. "Mom screaming, explosion going off, and nothing more." As Naruto then sat down, as he began his story, telling his daughter, "I know you realize I'm older than I appear, Konan." Konan was there when that strange being Zetsu had told Nagato about him. "But what you don't know is how old," Naruto said. As Naruto continued on, explaining his other two children, leaving out the family that they had started, the Hyuga and all that, and telling her what happened, what he did, and his actions followed. But Konan didn't take that lightly, as she looked at him with an angry look, as she didn't understand that explanation. As, from what he had learned from Nagato's memory, She was no longer a playful, nice child. She could hold back her emotions well and become cold and expressionless. As Konan then got up, as she went over to her friend, as he watches hundreds of strip-off bar tear from the tree, as they all flatten and turn into white paper until they form a large paper bird. As Naruto realized his daughter was leaving, where will you be going? As he pushed himself off the ground, home, she said. Back to the rain village, with Nagato this way. I am the leader of the country. Konan, before you leave, Naruto said, as the last pieces of paper bird formed together. Will you please tell me what happened to you? Konan was silent for several seconds, unmoving, debating whether she should tell him or not. But she did. From what I know, she said. When Mom was eventually caught, there was another shinobi there. He was from the Hidden Rain. As Mom tried to hide me after getting the 4th Hokage to run. As the previous shinobi that was chasing her chased after her again. She was killed as the 2 shinobis fled. As the one from the Rain village came to where Mom attempted to hide me. He took me when he hid, as they know that you were coming. Thinking from my clothes that I was from a wealthy family, thinking that they will pay a lot to get me returned. No one eventually showed up, so he handed me off to one of the many orphanages in the Rain village, believing I was some bastard's daughter. I am sure you saw the rest from your search in Nagato's mind, she said. After hearing what his daughter said, Naruto realized that she has been right at him that time. His rush expansion of his chakra, searching for speed for the ninjas to get away. He overlooked that she was right there being held hostage. Must have been terrified out of her mind. Yet again another failure. Yet again something he messed up. He could see it now. She was crying as a disgusting man held her mouth. As the guilt pressed down on his mind. Being so old, one would think that Naruto wouldn't make such a mistake. But he did. After Minami's death, he locked himself away. He barely go to the town to get food. So that is why he saw no assignment or anything for his daughter. As he saw paper lifting up Konan, friend, off the ground and putting him on the bird. Konan following close behind. I'll visit you soon, Naruto said. As Konan didn't respond. Not that he expected her to. Minato had taken 2 days before he was willing to speak to him again. But before you go, he said, as he quickly located a small seal array near his elbow. As there was a poof of smoke, a scroll was in Naruto's hand. As it was labeled, Konan Things, as Konan had paused to hear what he has to say. As he gave it to her, she took it. As she looked over it, noticing her name. It's your things, Naruto said. Most of it are just toys from when you were small. But I think some things are in there that you would like to keep. I assume that the 4th Hokage has one as well. As Naruto realized she wasn't calling him her brother. But these things will take time. Yes, Naruto said. I gave it to him on his birthday, a number of years ago. Then why have you given it to me now, she asked, as a sad smile came on Naruto's lips as she turned towards him. Today is your birthday, Konan, he said. Happy birthday. Meanwhile, dashing away from Konoha was Orochimaru, as he had a body over his shoulder. He knew he has little time to do what he wants to do, but he will do it. As he moved as fast as he could, the invasion was a big failure, but at least he got what he wanted. Returning to the village, Naruto found that those who were still alive had retreated from the village. Around Konoha was the bodies of those who had fallen. As Naruto silently walked through his house in Namikaze compound, having changed into some new fresh clothes. As he wondered what he should take with him when he visited Konan, as she would expect him tomorrow or the other day. But he would go and visit her, and take care of this Zetsu character, so he could spend some time with his daughter. Much like Minato, Konan was a leader of a village now, as she was a grown woman by the way, as Naruto realized her time might be heavily split, but he had some things he needed to make up for. As Naruto remembered that he had to take Shikaku before he left, as the One Tail was sealed into a scroll in the lower level of the Hokage's tower. It was a quick prison that his son had created with the limited time that he had, as Naruto could sense Shikaku chakra leaking from here, but it would be shifted to a highly greater prison soon, seeing that Minato is right now dealing with his council, talking about what to do and the state of the village. A sudden flash appeared in his house, as Naruto quickly realized it was his son. He turned to greet his son with a small smile, to give him the wonderful news that he has found his sister, but he saw the expression on Minato's face. He only wore that expression when he was acting like the Hokage to him, when he didn't have a choice. As Minato spoke, "Dad, did you take Koji and hide him away from the fighting?" No greeting, only a tone that demanded an answer. "Is something wrong, Minato?" "Koji is missing," said Minato. Naruto frowned deepened as his body tensed slightly. "I brought him to the bunkers. I wanted to take him with me as a civilian, but he told me that the Genins needed to report to the academy for assignment. I have had shinobi sweep the city," said Minato as his hand brushed through his hair. "They haven't found anything, and there isn't sign of a battle more than 100 meters away from the walls." "Well, despite the battle you have between yourself and the people wearing the Akatsuki robes," said Minato. "You know of them," said Naruto, momentarily sidetracked, as Minato nodded. "Jiraiya has tried to keep me up on their movements. There hasn't been such a large gathering of S-class shinobi before." As Naruto quickly thought about that, but it would be useless. By today or tomorrow, he would deal with the entire group soon. As Naruto looked straight into Minato's eyes, "Did you know that the second of the group, the second in command, is your sister?" As Naruto had to say it blunt, he knew no other way to say it. As Minato's eyes went wide, as gears were turning in Minato's head, as he then spoke, "Could someone in the group have taken Koji?" he said. As Naruto read between the lines, "You think that Konan will be able to do such a thing?" "Not her," said Minato. "But others in Akatsuki, could they have realized Konan's relationship to either of us? They may have taken Koji to get to me." Naruto simply shook his head. Nagato memories told him that much. No one knew of their relationship. None in the remnants of the Akatsuki knew of our relationship between Konan before today. Naruto then remembered something he saw in Nagato's mind. "But I have some suspicions as who it could be." "Who?" said Minato. As Minato wanted to know who took his son. "Orochimaru," said Naruto. As Minato's eyes went wide again. "But he's dead." "Someone managed to resurrect him." As Naruto paused to think about how this could happen, seeing that this wasn't the first time he had encountered someone with the ability to return from the dead, some cult came into his mind, Jashin or something like that. There has been a few ways where people had gained the knowledge, the way to achieve immortality, but Naruto has erased them over the years. If Orochimaru had managed to resurrect himself, and this wasn't a doppelganger, then Naruto will make sure that he and all the others who try to live past the years that fate had for them would be erased. Even if this was some poser, they would still die a painful death. He managed to convince the Sound, the Sand, and the Stone to enter an alliance against Konoha. Naruto informed his son, who nodded at the information. "Yes, from those we managed to interrogate, we knew as much," said Minato, as his face then gained a troubled look. Orochimaru's involvement is new, however. If he is truly alive, then him taking Koji, it begins to make sense now. "And how is that?" Naruto questioned his son. "You killed him," said Minato bluntly. "In addition to that, from what we found out in his hideouts that were around Konoha, he started dealt a fixation with power and bloodlines, especially immortality. If he returned to see that you haven't aged a day, that alone will make him want to come after you, never mind the ability that you demonstrate before you kill him. That is all well and good, but that applies that he will come after me to try and capture me and try to do all sorts of experiments to find out what I can really do. But we're accusing him of kidnapping Koji. How can these two theories link together? Orochimaru must realize that he easily defeated him before, and the second time will be no different. But assuming that the child inherit the same thing from their parents, he could achieve the same thing he wants just by using Koji's blood." A stiff expression came to Minato's face as he realized what Orochimaru is planning to do with his son. "I'll find him, Minato," said Naruto. "But in order to do so, I will need some of Koji's blood, in case you have any." Minato quickly headed off, as he wanted his son retrieved as soon as possible. As Naruto looked around his room, he will continue back when he retrieved his grandson, as there was also his chakra. It has been building up in the past years. It has gotten to the point where Naruto couldn't hold it. He would need at least months of training to actually contain all of it. Thanks to the youthfulness of his body, his chakra never stopped growing. It just grew and grew and grew and grew. But his chakra coils had expanded to their maximum centuries ago. This was part of the reason why his chakra was so much denser than others, as his coil expanded, but thanks to his eternal youth, and also, his chakra coils wasn't weakened, they wouldn't burst. The only reason why they stopped growing is because they reached up to the flesh. If they grew anymore, they would burst out of his skin. This came notice to him when he was facing Nagato and his puppets. His chakra was becoming too much for him to handle properly. The only way for him to work off a large portion of this was to push himself to the limit, but he didn't want news to spread rather quickly. I could create another island, Naruto thought, like the one I gave to the Bijus, but he shook that thought out of his head. He would have probably destroyed it, and it would need to be extra large for him to train there. Minato then came back as he had a vial of blood in his hand. As Naruto extended his hand as Minato gave it to him. "I will leave you to it then," said Minato. "I have to get back to coordinating the reconstruction and rebuilding effort. But please find him quickly, Dad," as Naruto heard the begging in his son's tone as he disappeared in a yellow flash, leaving Naruto alone again. As Naruto was gonna manipulate the blood freely, like how hair and skin came from the body, there was always a connection between all of it. There was a huge connection in the blood. As Naruto's eyes turned red, as he sent his chakra into it with a small amount of will, as Koji's body became a magnet as the blood started to pull towards it. Knowing where to go, Naruto disappeared from his house, leaving the door open. He would be back in a moment after all. He was in the border of Hainokune, where Naruto found his grandchild on Orochimaru's shoulder. The snake-like man was in the middle of landing on a tree branch with a smirk on his face that Naruto will quickly rip off, as Naruto was moving at swift release. As he took his time to study the man and saw if it was truly him. He was flesh and blood, not some puppet, but that still left the possibility of a clone of some kind. More questions entered Naruto's head as he wondered how could Orochimaru return from his previous death. As Naruto jumped down on the branch, as he planted his foot into Orochimaru's side. As he took Koji and jumped down and placed him under the shade of a tree. As Naruto whipped around and delivered a brutal kick right into the man's chest. As the world started to speed up, before Orochimaru knew what was going on, his head was planted into the ground. As Naruto wasted no time, mind release, as he went into his memories. He was in no mood to talk with someone who somehow managed to come back from the death. As Naruto felt a counterattack, Orochimaru was trying to overcome Naruto's mind, trying to push him out, but Naruto was able to crush it. As Naruto ripped through Orochimaru's mind, what he found made him scowl in annoyance and anger. This person was Orochimaru, not some sort of clone. He was the exact same person that he killed many years ago. He hadn't survived. He didn't have immortality, but what he had was a means of resurrecting himself. Using a type of clone made of chakra, along with technique that developed from Tobirama Senju. He was able to resurrect his soul and his chakra to the mortal plane after death. Then, through the will of a captured victim, he was able to push his soul into that person's body, coming back to the land of the living. It was one of the most horrifying things Naruto has ever seen in his mortal life. And he saw the things that he did to gain this knowledge, so many murder. As Naruto pulled himself from the man's mind, as Orochimaru chuckled, "So, you know," he said, as he couldn't turn, seeing that his face was planted in the ground and he has several broken ribs. "No matter what you do here to me now, I will simply return and get what I want." As he gave a dark chuckle, "I have to thank you, Naruto Namikaze. Although it's not the immortality that I wanted, it's better than nothing." Because his face was planted into the ground, Orochimaru didn't saw the amused look appear on Naruto's face. As he did feel Naruto lift him up, as he moved through the air at incredible speed, as his back smashed into a tree, now facing Naruto. As he slid down the tree, as he looked up, as Naruto had an amused look on his face. "Do you honestly believe that you're the first to gain immortality?" "There have been, but Naruto's cut off." as Orochimaru tried to kick Naruto right in his crotch. It was a dirty move, but he knew who he was fighting and he couldn't hold back. But Naruto brought down his leg as he snapped it right in Orochimaru's feet as the bones shattered under the weight. But Orochimaru let out a hiss, but nothing more. Ask yourself, why aren't the people around today who tried to gain immortality? Naruto said. Orochimaru knew that he was done for. His leg was completely destroyed, mangled, and especially with Namikaze power and strength, he couldn't get past him in the first place. So he was going to die for now. But Orochimaru still believed that his immortality was the best, as Naruto saw the look in his eyes, as he still had hope in his jutsu, as Naruto simply chuckled. In every method of obtaining immortality that I have seen, there was always a weakness when going about it. He then grabbed Orochimaru by his collar and pushed him against a tree. As Orochimaru did nothing, he knew he was done for. You people always focus on the physical aspect of immortality, healing the body of the injury, making it more resistant, and ensuring that permanent damage has been done to your brain and mentality. As Naruto's hand lit up in a purple fire, Yin, Yang and Yang combined to create a new chakra nature that was arguably the most powerful possible nature. As he thrust his arm forward, pushing it right into Orochimaru's chest. As Orochimaru winced out in pain, but he looked down, there was no blood. What was going on? Yet, you people always forget to defend the spiritual part of your immortality, your soul. As Naruto shoved his hand deeper into Orochimaru's chest, as Orochimaru's eyes widened, as he felt a cold chill run over his body, consuming him into the coldness. As Orochimaru tried to move and get out of there, but Naruto sunk his hand deeper, and a pain that Orochimaru had never felt before shot through his body, making his entire body go weak and limp. It wasn't physical or mental, it was something else entirely, something that Orochimaru wasn't used to, something that he didn't even understand. As Naruto stared into Orochimaru's eyes, he felt no guilt for what he was about to do. This man was sick and disgusted. As Naruto then tugged his hand back, as it was in a fist, Orochimaru's body instantly collapsed to the ground, breathing but with no higher brain activity. As Naruto had a blue spear in his hand, it was Orochimaru's soul. But guys, me end this episode right here. If you want to see the next part of this, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn that bell notification to stay posted. Remember to share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And stay in tune for the rest of the What Ifs coming your way. I'm going to be posting a new episode of What If Naruto was a God Amongst Man over on Anime King 2. And I'm going to be posting What If Orochimaru was Naruto's father. And later on this channel, I'm going to be posting a brand new episode of What If Naruto was sent to the Marvel world. So stay in tune for that, and I hope you guys enjoy each and every episode. But for now, I'm out of here, guys. Peace.